I think it is an invaluable experience to live outside of your own country for, let's call it 2 years, because I feel 2 years is you really understand what it's like. For me personally, being an expat changed my life. Not only because obviously I found, my calling in life, but also because one, of course you meet clients because there are a lot of expats. Two, just the pure cost savings of living outside the United States.
If you'd like to earn CPE credit for listening to this episode, visit earmarkcpe.com. Download the app, take a short quiz, and get your CPE certificate. Continuing education has never been so easy. And now, on to the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. I'm Blake Oliver, joined today by Vincenzo Villamena, the founder and CEO of Online Taxman, a firm specializing in U.S. expat taxes and international business structuring. He has extensive experience in tax prep, accounting, and financial advisory services for both individuals and businesses. Vincenzo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Blake. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on. Where are you located?
So I live in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I've been sort of in Latin America or South America really for over 10 years, living here, running a business, and just really enjoying the quality of life down here.
That's awesome. So you specialize in expat taxation. Um, what is expat tax? What does that mean?
So the thing is, as a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, is that you have to file your U.S. taxes no matter where you live. And so for us, that means that obviously all the Americans living abroad now, all with all the digital nomads, so on and so forth, people that are quote unquote accidental Americans, right? That maybe they were born in the United States when their parents were studying and they were, went back to their home country. All these people have to file U.S. taxes. So our firm focuses on, filing for those individuals as well as foreign people that want to invest in the United States. People that open up LLCs and companies in the United States because it's actually tax free for non-Americans, and really everything under the sun when it comes to sort of U.S. taxes touching, some sort of international tax situation, or I should say really an international tax situation that maybe touches the United States in some manner. And we help, those people with the compliance and then with also, again, like structuring optimization, because I really feel as a CPA, of course, compliance is important. You want to make sure you're compliant. But, if there's ability and opportunities to optimize, you should. And so we really try to focus on that side of the planning and so forth, too.
So tell me about your practice. Like, is it just you? Do you have a team? How does it work?
Yeah, so my story started about 12 years ago. I was in New York. I was working actually at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I worked at a private equity fund. I thought that private equity, and finance was really where my dream job was going to be, and making money and blah blah blah. And I got my private equity job after PwC, and I hated it. And so I was, within like 2 years, I was like, this sucks. And the fund couldn't raise money, and like there was just all this sort of stuff. This is also around like 2010, so the economy wasn't great. So I went down to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I went there on this sort of eat, pray, love moment. Like I had a friend living there. I visited there. I went to Brazil for Carnival. I went to Argentina, and then I was like, "Oh man, I need to go. I just want to leave. I just want to leave New York." So I went down to Buenos Aires. I had a buddy living there, and it was only going to be a few months. I had this other dream of going back to New York and open up one of these like Liberty Tax H&R Block sort of establishments. But I was like, oh, let me just go learn Spanish and whatnot. So there I am in Buenos Aires, learning Spanish, meeting people, doing tango, like doing all this stuff. And I was like, I don't want to go back to New York. You know what I mean? But am I going to go back to New York and open up some office in Queens or whatever? It's like, no way. So I ended up just staying, right? And
Yeah.
then when I was down there, and I had, obviously, as I mentioned, I had an accounting background. I sort of knew a little bit about tax. And so I'm down there, and, two things happened. One was, people were asking me questions, like Americans living down there were asking me questions about taxes and stuff. And then there were a lot of Argentinos, and if anyone that's familiar with Argentina, they've sort of been in a financial crisis for, I mean, I wouldn't call it like the last 10 years. They've been in financial crisis for 20, 30 years. I mean,
It's
every other like 5, 10 years is a real major crisis. And so
inflation,
anyway,
right?
so
It's like a huge problem
inflation's
there.
absurd, right? I mean, now it's like 100% a year now.
Yeah.
And so, and even back then, again, this is 12 years ago, it was the same issue. So all these Argentinos need to open up bank accounts in the United States. And so, one way to do that, and we still do this for a lot of people that are not Americans, is you can open up an LLC, and then you could open up a US dollar-based bank account. And so all these Argentinos were asking, oh, blah, 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 I need to open up a bank account, dollars. So basically, I had this eureka moment where I'm like, well, here's two, people that have needs. And so let me open up a company that obviously services these needs. And so there I was, you know, jobless, getting broke, learning, using my savings, living in Argentina, which, was cheap. So I did have a nice runway, which is beautiful. But the point is that I built a website, Online Taxman. And then for the first few years, it was just me at a computer, and I still remember this. I'd have people like on my couch, and I'd call, and at that point, like I wanted to maintain a little of a facade, so I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm in New York. It's great outside," and there I am in Argentina, and it's like, yeah, and basically, I just through blood, sweat, and tears, I, built this company, Online Tax Man. Today we have over 40 people around the world. And, as I said, we do sort of that same, services. We've expanded it more than that, but, that's sort of where I started from, my couch to where we are today. And, I have a wonderful business partner that came down a few years later, a good friend from college, from University of Michigan, and yeah, and here I am. So now I've sort of transitioned from Argentina, went to Colombia for a few years, and now I'm in Brazil.
So it started with you in Argentina helping Argentinos. Did I say that right? Is that what they call themselves?
Correct.
Is that what we call them?
That they Argentines, Argentinos,
Argent
well, Argentinos. Let's say Argentinos. It's Spanish, right?
Argentinos. Um,
Yeah.
they needed to open up US dollar bank accounts to
Correct.
deal with the crazy inflation, and that
Yeah.
was how you got into the
Yeah.
US
Yeah, it
taxation
was
down
that,
in
and the
yeah,
and the Americans that were down there that also didn't really, they obviously they didn't have a local accountant to go to do their U.S. taxes.
right.
So you had a lot of Americans that were down there and sort of clueless, or a lot of them actually were just not filing their U.S. tax. They didn't know about the compliance side. This is also when Obama actually passed a bill. It was part of like Obamacare, et cetera, called FATCA, which is
Mhm.
where people had to report their foreign bank accounts, and so there was a little bit also of like a coming of compliance for Americans abroad that have foreign bank accounts. So everything sort of brewed at the same time,
Yeah.
with me starting the website and doing Google AdWords and yeah, pushing people to the website. So then it went from just sort of me being like the local US accountant guy to going online, doing Google AdWords, et cetera, and really, getting clients from around the world. And I'll always remember when I like randomly built a website and I hired this guy with like, I really didn't have that much money, but I was like, okay, let's throw a couple $100 into Google AdWords. And, all of a sudden I always remember because there's a random guy in Spain, who I had a call with, and I, closed the consultation. He became a client. And that was like a eureka moment for me. I was like, oh my God, this random guy found me on the internet and is now going to be a client of mine. And yeah, and that's sort of what we've done. So, people find us online now, and we give consultations, and they become clients, et cetera. And that's how our business works for the most part.
So it started with Argentina. You said you have
Yeah.
40 people working around the world.
Yeah.
I take it you're a remote company, or do you have an office in Brazil now,
Correct.
or how does it work?
No, fully
Remote?
remote. We've always been remote.
Cool.
Which has been it's been interesting. Do you know what I mean? I think it's been a challenge, but you know what? It's been such a gift, not only for like the freedom and flexibility of me, but really for everyone that works with us, right? I've had people
Uh,
that, have never left their home country and now are sort of, traveling around, either digital nomad or at least, going and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go work here for, from a couple weeks from Europe. I've never been to Europe." Things like that. And so it's really afforded the
yeah,
people that we work with, our employees, also having that freedom and that lifestyle. And that's actually been, you could ask me about, what's rewarding and all this sort of thing. There's two things that have been super duper rewarding for me. One is just helping people optimize, save money, deal with the stress of their taxes because, they come and they don't know what they're doing. A lot of people are stressed out, anxious. So helping people like that.
yeah.
And then number two, allowing my employees to achieve what they want to achieve and work where they want to work and just, give them that lifestyle.
That's my dream. I wanna eventually just travel around the world, live in different places, and I could do my job from anywhere. The only thing keeping me here right now is I have a kid in school, so,
Yeah.
you know, I'm tied
Yeah.
down. I don't wanna take him international for a while, but, maybe in 10 years, just
Yeah.
cut loose
You never
and
know.
travel around. Then I'll have some international tax issues, I'm sure.
Exactly.
It gets a little
And
complicated.
yeah, it does. It does
S
get well, now there's world schooling. I have clients that they like. I mean, it's such a concept. I don't have kids, so I can't fully comment on it, but it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you want to learn about the Holocaust? Let's go to Germany. We'll tour around a bit and whatnot. It's
Oh,
I mean, in
yeah,
the
it's true.
last 10 years, it's just the revolution of, and this is really even pre-COVID too, right? COVID obviously just expedited everything.
Yeah.
But, the amount of people that are now, again, families, not, single people, older retirees that have been able to travel and live is it's amazing.
I might have a referral for you.
Yeah.
One of my friends from high school, she's a pianist living in London or
Oh,
outside of
cool.
London. She's a
Yeah.
US citizen,
Yeah.
and, like, she's been looking for somebody who does expat taxes, but
Yeah.
it's not common, like, it's really hard to find somebody. Is
It
that
is.
what you're finding,
Yeah.
that, like, you are in strong demand?
It's a very, yeah, well, yeah, 100%. Because it's true. There's not a lot of people, especially like locally, really locally, but even online, there's only a few firms that really do this stuff.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we've really been able to niche out and obviously achieve a lot of success with it.
So where are your clients? Like, are they primarily in South America? Are they all over the world? Like, because
They're
I
all over the
imagine,
world.
yeah, like understanding the expat tax issues could be complex if you're dealing with a lot of different countries, or is it not
Yeah.
that bad?
Well, again, we only focus on the U.S. side. So what ends up happening is over the years we've found a lot of accountants that we like that we work with in each country. We don't have any economic relationship, but it's more of like a trusting relationship. So,
Okay.
just like and a little bit of like a cross referral. Again, not economic, more of like, okay, I know, you live in Holland. Here are two Dutch accountants that we've worked with before, et cetera. And so we
So
know
they
a little
handle
bit
the
about
local
they
tax,
handle
the
the local stuff.
okay.
We could spot a lot of the issues, especially on the major stuff, because to your point, we have a lot of clients in the big expat hubs. So the UK, Canada, Australia, Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong. And then we have a very large presence in South America, predominantly because, one, I've lived in three countries here. And two, we also have employees in Argentina and whatnot. So yeah, we do have a pretty, large presence in South America. I think it's like relatively underserved compared to some of the other markets. So, but they're around the world, the clients. And yeah, like I said, for some of the major hubs like, the UK or Australia, Singapore, we also sort of we have a grip on the issues, right? Like we know, okay, the UK has a different tax year, so you have to sort of make sure that that's aligned. The fact that like Brazil dividends are tax free, so how do you work with that to optimize? So there are like some sort of local issues that we know enough about. We will never do a local tax return,
Mhm.
but you're able to issue spot and sort of know how it works, etc.
So what are the biggest issues that expats face, like in terms of US taxes and staying compliant. I know that
Yeah,
a lot of them don't know that they still have to file taxes
right.
in the US on their global income and all that. Like, we have a really
Mhm.
different system than most countries. Um,
Yeah, very different.
you know, there's
Yeah,
you could probably do, like, a whole series of interviews on
I
this, but,
should.
like, what are the top ones? Like,
No,
give me
sure.
the rundown.
Let's talk about the good and the bad,
Okay.
right? The good is, as an American citizen, if you live outside the United States, there's two ways to qualify. One is by being physically present outside the United States. So you could only be in the US for 35 days in a 365-day period. Or you're a bona fide resident. So you get a residency, let's say in Mexico, and you get a bank account, and you're there the whole year. Like, maybe you go back to the United States only 60 days or 90. It's a little bit not less of a bright line. But basically, if you reside outside the United States,
Mhm.
then you get your first $120,000 of salaried income or independent contracted income, earned income, like that you're actually earning, not passive income, dividends and rental real estate, whatever. That doesn't count. But basically, if you $128,000 of your earned income, W-2, whatever, tax free, right? So you could save, roughly, and then also free from state income tax potentially, depending on the state, et cetera. And you have to give up your residency. And there's places like California that are very aggressive about that whole thing. Um, but yeah, you get, again, you're saving 20, 30 plus $1,000 by living outside the United States and qualifying what's known as the foreign earned income exclusion. Right. So
Gotcha.
that is a big advantage, and the state tax, like I mentioned. So
But that
that's the good
income
thing.
has to come from where, like, it has to be derived from where I'm outside the United
It
States,
it,
right?
it has to be, a common misconception, right? Is that, oh well, but I'm still working for a U.S. company, right? Now you
Yeah.
may be working for a U.S. company, but it's foreign earned income exclusion, and so when you're earning income by being physically outside the United, you're physically working, obviously your desk, like I am in Brazil right now.
Yeah.
I'm earning my income outside the United States, so I qualify for that. If
Okay.
you if you happen to be in the US for a month working, then actually that income that you're working in the United States is not qualified. So you have to do a little bit of a pro rata sort of
Interesting.
calculation on that. But for the days that you are physically working outside the United States, that earned income is tax free. And again, whether you're working for a U.S. company, you have your own, U.S. company, S corp, LLC, or you're working for a foreign company, it's tax free. If you're working for a
Wow.
foreign company, then you might not even have to pay Social Security tax in the U.S. I mean, there's like we set up offshore structures for
Yeah.
people that are, international entrepreneurs, right? If they don't have any U.S. employees, U.S. offices, U.S. warehouses, potentially, they could also achieve, an even lower tax rate on the corporate side of 10.5%. Right? I mean, this is
Well, so
stuff
this
that,
is like the individual, version of what corporations do, where
yeah,
they set up the
100%.
offshore.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's not for everyone. It's not, but the Apples and Googles of the world are doing this, and for
Yeah.
certain international entrepreneurs, et cetera. Again, they're living abroad. They don't, you can't have any effective connected income in the United States. You're able to achieve
Yeah.
these strategies, right? I mean, these are sort of honestly the loopholes that Apple is. It's a C corp that owns a foreign company. You have Apple that owns a company in Ireland, that has people in Ireland, et cetera. I mean, they're achieving that same tax rate on the income earned by those foreign corporations that they have.
So my takeaway here is there's a lot of detail and complexity, of course, as there always is,
Yes,
but
of
the
course.
immediate savings is like tens of thousands of dollars
Correct.
because of that exclusion, just from doing it the right way. And then
100%.
the next level is you say create do you have, like, your clients set up a corporation abroad and then, like,
Yeah, I mean, we
get
do the
paid by that?
structures. Yeah, exactly. We do the structures for them. It could be several jurisdictions. We like the British Virgin Islands. I mean, it used to be Hong Kong. Hong Kong's a little different now, but
Oh,
there's some.
can we use me as an
Go ahead,
example? Let's just
please.
pretend it's 10 years in the future, and let's say the laws is still
Yeah,
the same,
Blake.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to go live my international lifestyle, right? I've got maybe a yacht somewhere, I can take it around the world. Let's assume things have gone really well for me, right?
Yeah.
Um so like what do I
But
do?
we don't want you to live on the yacht actually, because then that'll complicate
Oh.
things because then you might be in international waters. But
Oh, okay.
you have a villa in Italy, right? You've
Perfect.
decided to move your villa in Italy.
I love Puglia, Italy. So let's
I
let's
love
say it's in
Puglia.
the heel.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
okay.
Yeah, the hill's great actually.
Okay, so I've decided I'm
Um,
gonna I'm gonna invest in a villa in Italy, and I've been watching YouTube videos that
yeah,
suggest I could probably get a pretty decent place for like, not that much. So let's
dollar.
go. Yeah.
Well, the good ones are like $10,000, $20,000, but who's counting? But yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I buy a town in Italy that's like been
yeah,
abandoned,
exactly,
and
correct.
I'm ready to have some fun. Okay, what do I do?
Yes, I mean, listen, high level. Well, let's also not, we won't get into like what the local Italian tax,
No,
system
no.
might do for this because that might, that's getting ahead of ourselves, and I know enough about it, and yeah, I mean that's not a fun talk, but the fun talk is basically, again, if you qualify for the foreigner income exclusion, right, and you're
Mhm.
obviously a bona fide resident of Italy, wherever it is, you could pay yourself 120 grand from this foreign company, and that would be subject to the foreign income exclusion, which means that it
So
would
hold
be.
let me stop you there for a
Go ahead.
second. You said foreign
Sure.
company. Am I setting up like my company earmark? Am I setting up a foreign subsidiary? Is this a totally like how
Yeah,
what is this
it would be
foreign
like a
company?
USC corp that owns a foreign
Mhm.
company. Let's call it in the British Virgin Islands, for example. And
Okay.
then, the operating company, everything's going through the British Virgin Islands. The foreign company, the C corp's more of a holding company.
Got it.
The foreign
Okay.
company's in the British Virgin Islands, and and that's where you have a bunch of employees around the world. You got your editors. You have a few people.
Mhm.
Bunch of people working for you out of this BVI company, and you get paid. You pay yourself $120,000, which is tax free, subject to the foreign income exclusion, and also not subject to Social Security tax. And that's so that's sort of your tax free income to live and so forth.
And
Potentially, if you
remind
have
me,
go ahead.
how long do I have to live in Italy every year to do that?
You have to be outside the U.S. for pretty much the whole year. I mean, you could go back for, let's call it, like a couple months out of the year.
Okay.
So to really be outside, that's a big part of this. And then let's say, again, whatever profits left after you pay yourself the 120, even if you have a spouse who's also working, for the company, pay them as well.
Mhm.
Um, to
So that's
qualify for
another
the foreign income.
120
That's another
potentially.
120. It's 240 exactly. And then
Mhm.
anything left over under this scenario will be subject to a 10.5% tax rate. And so one might ask, well, where do you get 10.5%? 10.5% is half of the 21% corporate tax rate. So you get a little bit of like a 50% discount on the corporate tax rate by
And
setting
is
up that
that to
structure.
make up for the tax I gotta pay in Italy or something? Is that the rationale for that?
No, that's the rationale is, during the Trump tax plan, somebody lobbied for this 10.5% tax rate. The Apples and Googles of the world said, "Whoa, if you're gonna change it, come on, we need, we're not gonna pay the full tax rate." And so
Yeah.
somebody lobbied for 10.5%. It's called Section 250
Okay.
deduction. Yeah,
Wow. Okay, so that actually doesn't sound too complicated. We're just talking about a subsidiary in the British Virgin Islands,
yeah,
and I
it's
just
not.
gotta
I mean,
like
it
pay
is, but
myself
it
out of that.
isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So
So
then,
then,
God. Well, because
well,
I told you, I had to tell you the
yeah.
good, but I also have to tell you the bad too.
Okay, so now
You
tell
know,
me tell me the bad.
do you want the bad part?
Well, is
It's
there
not
more
that
good
bad.
or is there more good? Or
We're
are we
going to
pretty
more
much done with
good.
that?
I mean, there's a lot of good. Um,
Tell me about more good before the bad.
um, okay. Well, more good
What if what if
is
I'm making
no.
more than a
There's
quarter million dollars,
right. Yeah, yeah. There's okay. Let's go with more good. So, there is a level of deferral if you want to keep the money in the company, right? If you're going to continue to use the money for reinvesting in the business, or maybe you're going to acquire other podcasts or whatnot. You're allowed to keep the money in the company, and so there's a level of call it deferral, right? Because you get the 10.5%, but let's say you want to take more money out of the company, out of the C corp. You put the money up to the C corp, and then you could take more money out, but then that will be a dividend, right? And it's a qualified dividend when it comes out of the C corp, so it's taxed anywhere between 15 to 23.8%. But you could choose to leave the money in the C corp because you're going to reinvest it in things, and maybe you're going to, use some investments, et cetera. I mean, this is where this conversation gets a little more sort of complicated, because there are things about, accumulated retained earnings tax, and maybe you could do some investing in the C corp, but you don't want it to be a personal holding company, and that's
Mm.
when it'll get sort of, this conversation can go off a deep end. But I think high level good thing is
You get
that,
into the
you know,
planning, right?
yeah, that's where you get into the planning
You
for
gotta
sure.
know what my plans are. We gotta have a long conversation about that.
Exactly.
You can't just answer this
About that,
question with
what
just like, yeah.
exactly. Correct. But I think the good on this one is that you can achieve a level of tax deferral. You don't have to take all, you pay the 10.5%, you don't have to take everything as a dividend and pay an additional, again, 15 to 23.8%. You could plan, right? You could plan to take it out, the dividends out over time based on the needs of your business that you see in the future.
And this is what Apple does, right? They leave the money
Mhm.
offshore, they don't repatriate it,
Correct.
and they don't pay tax until they repatriate it. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so we talked about the good. I love this. This is great, actually. Vincenzo, I'm gonna be calling you up, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Listen, I mean, this is what I
or,
love to do. This is really what I love
yeah.
to do when it comes to helping my clients and people, et cetera, really.
Well, what I love about it is that, like, the way you've described it, it's very clear what the benefit is to me as
Correct.
a client. Like, the savings is
Correct.
there, and now I'm hooked, and I wanna, "Okay, now what do we have to do? What's the work that we have to do?" It's not necessarily bad, right? But what is
Right.
the work that we have to do now to get this benefit?
Yeah, I mean, and that's where, yeah, I mean, I say bad, but it's not bad. It's just that, you have to report
Uh
the structure, right? I mean, I will never work with anybody that does not fully understand the compliance side, right? Which is that,
Mhm.
every year, there's something called a 5471 form, right? In which the foreign entity needs to be reported to the IRS, along with the C corp which owns it, which is 1120 form. Of course, if there are any bank accounts, either personal bank accounts or foreign bank accounts, owned by the company or whatever, they need to be reported on the F bar for foreign bank account reporting.
Mhm.
And so, I think the whole, high level, right? All the benefits that we talked about being an expat are great. Just people know that, even though you're an expat and you're qualified for foreign earned income exclusion, you need to file to
Yep.
show that you qualify, and you need to, if you have investments abroad or what have you, you need to report all that stuff. And so that's sort of the
Mm.
bad, which isn't so bad, but it's sort of just, it's especially if you work with somebody like us, like we'll just, handle it. But, you just need to know that, hey, you need to make sure that you're reporting everything correctly.
So do you set up the foreign corporation? Do you, like, handle all this stuff, or do you outsource that? Like, if I'm
Oh,
your
we handle
client,
everything.
you handle everything?
We handle everything. Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
do
And
the
that's
bookkeeping
go
too,
ahead.
or is it just the
We
tax
do the
stuff?
bookkeeping. Oh yeah, the bookkeeping.
Huh.
That's, I mean, I don't, it's not like mandatory, but it's very important, the bookkeeping. Why?
Mm.
Because the 5471 form for reporting a foreign company, is a very intricate form, right? You have to do the income statement, the balance sheet, et cetera, right? People, I mean, you have to understand this form 5471 for somebody in your situation, you're filling out the same form that Apple has to fill out. Okay, which means it's a very complex and intricate form about all the foreign transactions and intercompany stuff. I mean, it's not, yeah, it's not a breeze. And so it's just important that you have good books to be able to fill out the form correctly. And yeah, and so
Okay.
but that's really part of our value add, which is, hey, we will set this up for you. We will clearly show and we do this analysis for everybody before we end up setting out for them, but we will clearly show how much tax savings, you can have, and then we will do the setup from soup to nuts, explain it to you, write a memo, etc. And then every year we will work together to make sure that you're in compliance so that if there's an audit, you're clean, you're showing that you're doing everything correctly, and we leave no stone unturned when it comes to that.
How do you charge for this? Do you bill hourly? Do you charge fixed
Usually
fee? Fixed fee?
fixed fee, depending on the complexity.
And how
Yeah.
often?
Well, no, I mean, it's sort of for example, doing the setup, right,
Mhm.
is generally like between, five to $15,000, and then the annual compliance. I mean, you have to pay you have to pay also like the BVI and the C corp and the registered agents, et cetera. And then obviously us doing the thing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's probably like $5,000 annually, sort of thing.
got it. So,
Yeah,
and then there's the tax filings.
correct.
Is that do you include that in your annual fees, or do you?
Yeah, that's all included in that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I like that because it's very clear, like, I'm asking you, like, as a prospective client someday, "Hey,
Yeah.
what is this gonna cost me?" And now I have a rough idea, and
Correct.
I can think,
Yeah.
"Okay, so one-time setup fee, that's pretty hefty, but then ongoing, right,
Yeah.
I'm spending, let's call it 5,000 to save
Yeah.
10,000, 20,000, maybe more, right?"
Correct. I mean,
So
also look at the ongoing,
uh,
because also think about this. You're saving, Social Security is 15%, right? So by
yeah,
paying yourself for a foreign company, right? You pay yourself 120,000 from an S corp. You're paying 15 grand plus the Social Security. So even on the Social Security taxes alone, you're achieving the savings in the first
wow,
year, right? And then
yeah,
obviously, as you mentioned, like ongoing, I mean, it's just exponential savings. It's kind of compounding over the years. That you
yeah.
have the setup and you're living abroad.
It's very
So
compelling. It's a really
yeah,
it's a really great offering. I'm just thinking about this, like, as opposed to, let's say my firm, I just sold bookkeeping, right? I sold
yeah,
bookkeeping, and we'll pay your bills, we'll do your payroll. That's just something that has to happen, right? There's no cost savings necessarily from that, right? It's not like I'm
correct.
saving you money on your tax bill. Like, this is like very, I
This
like
is
it as a
significant
business model.
savings.
Yeah.
Yeah, significant savings. And listen, I mean, we're kind of simplifying it because everyone's different, but the people we work with and what we do is yeah, it's very important to get it right, and we work with people that we think this is a good achievable goal. But the thing is this is that other than, let's say, the big four or a lot of international law firms, this is not that do this stuff for the Apples and Googles of the world. There's very little people out there that do these setups for sort of the typical entrepreneur that is
Yeah.
doing whatever, a couple 100,000 plus of net profit that qualifies for this. And so that's, like I said, one of the most rewarding parts of my job.
Yeah, even if you just wanna go travel around the world for a few years, and as a business owner, it might make sense to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
something like this. I don't know.
I mean, listen, between that and just the cost savings of living abroad and the lifestyle arbitrage. I mean, it's that's
Yeah.
why I'm very happy with living down here and achieving these type of savings.
Your voice is a little raspy. We were talking before we, started recording that, like, was it Carnival is going on?
Carnival just happened.
Huh.
Carnival, it's true. Yeah, everyone I know, I think, has a raspy voice and a cough because Carnival. First off, it's not even, well, how long is Carnival? Well, like technically Carnival is 5 days, but really in Rio de Janeiro, Carnival is a month-long celebration. I mean, Carnival is a lifestyle. Carnival ended, but actually this weekend there's more Carnival stuff going on. I think that this weekend might be the final weekend, but then in like 3 months, all of a sudden there'll be some other Carnival thing, and that's my other piece of life advice for everybody here. Save money on your taxes, but if you get a chance, please come to Brazil Carnival once in your life. That's it.
All
I
right.
love it.
It's on my list now. I'm gonna
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, you really should. You
Closest I've
come
gotten
down
is New
here,
Orleans.
you come down here, Blake, I'll take you to Carnival, and then we'll also do the offshore setup for you, all in one swoop.
Oh, perfect. I get to
You
that's
get an
great.
offshore
I think you
setup and
should
a Carnival trip. It's great.
you might wanna connect with, like, a trip organizer, like a travel agent to, like, set all that up for people, right? You could have a whole, group of people come
You
down,
know,
right? And first they work
I could
on
do
getting
like
this
a
all set up.
buy an offshore setup and get a free Carnival trip out of it.
Perfect.
Great.
We just come up
We've
with your
just
next great marketing activity.
I just
Amazing.
came up with my next offer.
That's awesome. Uh, all right, let's go back to your team, the remote team working everywhere in the
Please.
world. You got 40 people. This is kind of mind blowing, I think, for a lot of traditional firms. And they can't imagine how could I have company culture? How could I get anything done with people working from home, much less working from like different countries? So, like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah. Now, Blake, that's a great question because it didn't happen without its sort of downfalls and mistakes. I think, one was really just hiring the right people, right? People that can work remote, that can work from home. And, what it really came down to was implementing processes, obviously the CRM and sort of technology, but really implementing, things in our culture like, having weekly team meetings, right? And having, people having bi-weekly one-on-ones. So I have a one-on-one with about half my managers. My business partner does the other half. Then those people have one-on-ones with, people underneath them. And then when I say one-on-one, I mean just check-ins, right? What's going
Hmm.
good? What's going wrong? Bad? What can I help you with? Like, hey, what do you want to learn? Just goal setting, etc. And then on the team calls, having a little bit of an icebreaker thing. At the end of the call, we do gratitude. We give thanks to people that have maybe helped us or done something, over the past week or two. We do actually have in-person team building events, right? Now we do it sort of a little more regionally because everyone's sort of spread around the world. So we have the South American team building event. We have the team building event in Europe. The Asia guys get together. And
Tell me about
so,
that. Like, how does that
oh,
work?
they're
People
great.
get together regionally?
Yeah. Yeah. So me and my business partner, a couple of key people on the team, like the executives, and then, the people who live in, for example, we did Montenegro, which is in Europe, right? And we had
Yeah.
we have a team in a couple of people in Serbia. We have a couple of the people from India came. A couple of the other people in Europe, and we descended on Montenegro. We rented a villa. We did some, some working, co-working, if you will, and then we did some, we rented a boat and went out and did a boat day. We had some dinner stuff, and we all sat. It was kind of an offsite, right? It was a time where, hey, we're together. How can we, make this company better? Right? What do we need to improve upon? How did tax season go? Again, what went well during tax season? What didn't go so well? What are we doing technology wise? What do we need for our CRM, our customer relationship management system? What services should we offer people? Like really, really listening to like the people on the ground, meaning the accountants,
Hmm.
about what can go better and what we could improve. So every team building I do, it's about half of that, like sort of real like off-site feedback, roundtable discussion, half sort of like, fun, yeah, like a boat day, wine tasting, eating together, hanging out, and then also, yeah, like a little bit of sort of just co-working stuff.
That's
And
great.
and they're great. We play this really interesting game. It's called Vulnerability is Sexy. It is sort of like this team building a game that I got from an entrepreneur group I'm in, and people get vulnerable. It's almost sometimes like a group therapy session. People really go deep, and so you take those little time that you have, and you really try to create a real bond, and it's worked great for our team. I mean, our team is solid, and I know that's solid because our turnover's low and people are collaborative and whatnot. But really, it all starts with the hiring. It all starts with making sure you're hiring the people that are collaborative, that are team players, that that don't get distracted by working from home or whatnot, and making sure that people, of course, are doing their work, et cetera, and then building upon that and creating that culture of collaboration and helping each other out.
You mentioned that you use workflow tools, software, critical for any remote team to collaborate.
For sure.
What are the favorite apps in your stack?
We use something called Zoho, which is sort of our CRM. Candidly, it's sort of like a poor man's version of Salesforce, right? And it has like, a good chat feature. It's what we use for, managing the client, meaning like, where they are in the process, all the client information, again, like a full CRM, process stuff. It interacts with PandaDoc, which we use for e-signatures, so like sending engagement letters. Box.com, which is what we use for like the document upload, document storage. And so sort of Zoho integrates that together. But, that's a very customized, it's a CRM that we customized tremendously. We hired a full-time developer, and we have another guy that's sort of a fractional CTO. They're both amazing. And that's also been really a game changer as far as just building our firm and making sure that, especially, given our clients are all online, everything's paperless, all our accountants are everywhere, that, it just ties everything together.
Yeah. Zoho, like, to me, looks almost like an ERP system. It has the CRM, but it's also got like email, documents.
Yeah.
It's got a module for everything.
It has a module for everything. It's very complete, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they do a lot of work.
How much of it are you using? Like, are you using the whole, like it seems like you could do it.
We use a lot of it. Over the years, we've been, even like the HR stuff, the way people, request their vacations, all the stats with our clients, attrition, revenue stuff. Again, like, the Click is what I would say is a messaging system. It is a very robust system.
And it's pretty affordable too, I believe. I've never actually, I don't think I've ever met a firm using it. How much does it cost you?
I can't even tell you.
That's how affordable it is. Yeah,
that's how
great.
affordable it is. It was, you know what? It really was between Zoho and Salesforce. It's a decision we made a few years ago, so that's why I don't really remember. But if it wasn't for a podcast that we listened to that, on Zoho, we probably would have gone with Salesforce. But I'm very happy with Zoho because, it's a lot more affordable.
Salesforce is so upmarket. It's very expensive.
So upmarket. It's very expensive.
Yeah. And Zoho, I believe they're out of India, right? So
they are out of India.
Are low.
They are out of They are out of India.
Yeah.
Listen, they build out. They've continue to build and grow, and we're happy with Zoho for sure.
Okay, so I got to ask you now, what is a day in the life of Vincenzo like? Give me your, like, how do you like to run your day? And let's assume it's not Carnival.
Yeah, Carnival is a big, but all right. So the mornings are very sacred to me, right? I really try not to turn on my phone in the mornings, or at least I put it in airplane mode, right? And I'll do some sort of exercise. I play beach tennis here, meditate, yoga. So really try to just
What's
not
beach
do any
tennis?
Beach tennis is the new thing. It's tennis on the beach, kind of like a badminton, where you got to keep the ball up in the air, right? It's like it's like a double sort of sport. The tennis net is about as high as a volleyball net. You use real tennis balls, and you use sort of like paddle ball, like a paddle racket. So, it's kind of like how pickleball is sort of the rave in the U.S.
Yeah.
Beach tennis is like the rave in Brazil and other parts of Europe. Yeah. Beach tennis is the rave here. Yeah, it's really cool.
So then I think you said yoga, some yoga after
Yeah,
that?
so like yoga or beach tennis,
Yeah.
like every day is a little bit, it's a different sort of sport. But the point is, really trying to focus on that in the morning, and then sort of like, mid to late morning, I'll start work, and a lot of my day consists of managing obviously tasks and the marketing and the operational side and people recruiting, etc. I do a lot of client work with these offshore structures, and my
Mhm.
focus generally is on the structuring side. So that the offshore structures we talked about, foreign trusts, sort of this like heavy lifting stuff for high net worth individuals or higher value clients, if you will. And then I'll also do some reviews, right? Because in our firm, it's sort of like a two-person approach. We have somebody who prepares the return and then someone who reviews it. And we have a
Gotcha.
team of managers and reviewers that do it, but I also continue to do some reviews. And so I'll do that. Throughout the day, and if it's tax season, maybe work a little bit in the evening, etc. But that's sort of it's like operating and managing people and doing like kind of CEO level stuff, but while still working with some clients on their individual situations.
What advice do you have for accountants who are interested in getting into this expat international tax area? You just went to Argentina and you had a revelation that this was
Yeah,
a need that people had. Um, how should other people get into it?
you know, I think first actually maybe be an expat. I mean, I know a lot of other people in my industry. Not all of them live the lifestyle I live, being expat. So I don't want to
Mhm.
say it's a requirement, but I do think there's value in being an expat on a few different levels. I think that actually this is for anybody. I think, accountant, non-accountant, whatever. I think it is an invaluable experience to live outside of your own country for, let's call it 2 years, because I feel 2 years is you really understand what it's like. Um, for me personally, being an expat changed my life. Not only because obviously I found, my calling in life, but also because one, of course you meet clients because there are a lot of expats. Two, just the pure cost savings of living outside the United States, not just the tax savings that we discussed, but also, the fact that, when I was living in Argentina, my, cash burn rate, like on my monthly expenses was maybe like $1,000, $1,200 a month, right? And again, it
Yeah.
was all tax free. So I was not, I was able to build my business because I was living in a very low cost of living place, and I think anyone
Yeah.
that's really trying to start out their practice, whether it's accounting or, independent contractor or whatever their business is, startup, etc. Um, living outside the U.S., especially in these low cost countries, whether it's, in Argentina or Colombia or Thailand or Philippines or Eastern Europe, wherever, really, really, really helps you focus on putting your money back in the business and growing it and so on and so forth. So I would say that be if you're if
Mhm.
be an expat, learn what it's like to be an expat, learn the needs of expats, and that's the way to sort of try and grow that particular
Yeah.
practice.
It's great advice for any specialty you wanna develop is
Yeah,
live the experience of the client,
live the
and then
experience of the client.
you will
Exactly,
understand them. And
you
Vincenzo, I
will.
gotta agree with you 100% about more people needing to live abroad, and I would say especially Americans.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't live abroad, but
Mm-hmm.
I did a very short trip. I did 6 weeks, in Asia after college because
Cool.
I didn't have I didn't have the time. I felt like I couldn't take a year off, although I totally could have and I should have. But
Right.
anyway, I only did 6 weeks, right? And I'd saved up the money to do it. Asia was pretty cheap, so I could, book the flight and then travel around and bum around, right? As a backpacker. And I didn't realize what like I was getting myself into at the time, and I'm kind of glad I didn't because I don't know if I would have done it. But I went alone and I had never been abroad. I mean, I'd been to like resorts in Mexico, right? That does not count,
Yeah.
right? Those are basically like Americanized cities. So it was completely mind blowing. It was like life changing, finally being outside of my own country and like experiencing it
Mm.
for myself. And I feel like America would be people would
A
just be
little more
better.
open.
Yeah, they'd be
Yeah.
more open if they
Yeah.
had experienced it, both in good ways and bad ways. Like, like
Right.
I came home and I appreciated like the system we have in America where it's like the rule
Correct.
of law and capitalism and entrepreneurship exists. And I was, backpacking around countries where like you had to bribe the official who was clearly sitting
Right.
on the street to do anything, right? And I don't know, that
Hmm.
just really opened up my mind, made me very appreciative for what I have.
I think that's a great point. You're right. It brings out so much appreciation, what we have in the U.S. and what other countries don't have, and whether it's rule of law or just candidly basic, running water and
Yeah.
whatnot. I mean, I've like, you know, part of what I love doing is actually traveling and volunteering. And I've, been to refugee camps in Iraq and Bangladesh and other places. And, you talk about just like the slice of humble pie or whatever. And I don't know, for me, that's not why I go, obviously, but I think that, just traveling and especially and through the developing world, you really get an appreciation for what we have. And I do think that could actually, yeah, I mean, it's very impactful, and I think it's super important to sort of really see that other side of the world, because I think it's motivating and it's inspiring for people.
I think that's a great place to leave it. I have been speaking with Vincenzo Villamena, the founder and owner and runner of Online Taxman. What's the website?
So we have a couple, but onlinetaxman.com.
Cool.
And then we also have one, globalexpatadvisors.com, which sort of focuses on like these structures that we discussed and offshore trusts and offshore structures, et cetera. So globalexpatadvisors.com and onlinetaxman.com.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your experience and your time. I found it personally extremely valuable, and I'm sure our listeners will too.
Thank you, Blake. It's been awesome.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you learned something new. And if you did, wouldn't it be nice to get some CPE credit for it? Well, I've got great news. My new app, Earmark CPE, offers free NASBA-approved CPE credits for listening to podcasts, including this one. Visit earmarkcpe.com to download the app, take a short quiz, and get your CPE certificate. That's earmarkcpe.com.